Well, Alex, I wanted to talk to you about some of the things that have happened that led up to the point that now you're going to Baylor for a graduate degree. How in the world did you get to this point?
Yeah, well, it's been a long journey going throughout my time at Lee and my Lee experience. I came into Lee thinking that all I wanted to do was be a classical choral director, and I still wanted to direct choirs, but at that point in time when I first came to Lee, I had no desire to do any kind of music ministry. That was nothing that was set in my heart. But over my first year at Lee as a freshman and then beginning of sophomore year, I started to feel uneasy, and I started to feel honestly just dissatisfied with what I was doing, and I felt like there was no real purpose behind it. And I remember sophomore year, one time I was praying and I was just being honest with God, and just letting him speak to me. And I felt God speak to me in that moment saying, Alex, I want you to spread the gospel through music. And it wasn't necessarily an audible voice, it was just a deep conviction in my heart that I knew it was him. And so with that knowledge, I began to wrestle with it, because sometimes listening to God's voice and having him change your plan isn't always the easiest thing. But I began to wrestle with it, and around that time, that was the semester where I got involved in going to the Japan trip over Christmas break. And that was, in essence, it was a music ministry trip. And when I got to Japan, it was incredible seeing people who had never heard the gospel hear the gospel for the first time. And in seeing that, I felt such a huge sense of fulfillment and satisfaction, just seeing people come to Christ and grow in relationship with him through the music that we were giving them and serving them with. And so I remember I was in Japan, and again I was struggling with it. I was like, God, if this is what I'm called to do, if you want me to spread the gospel through music, then what is it that I need to do? What's the next step? And I told him, I was like, God, I need you to be very, very clear with me. I need you to be so clear with me that beyond a shadow of a doubt, I know that you're calling me to do this. And so that very same night, we were headed to one of the churches, and the bus that we were on actually started to fall down this incline, down this cliff, and the fence and a pole caught us, and we were hanging there in midair. And in that very moment where tensions were very high, clearly, I feel God speak to me again, just a deep conviction that said, Alex, tomorrow's not promised to anybody, so serve me when I'm calling you to serve me in now. And when I heard God's voice, I knew exactly what I had to do. As soon as I left Japan, I came back to Lee the next semester, and I immediately joined the Lee Singers, which is one of the ministry groups on campus. And I had finally found an avenue to spread the gospel through music. And what I had been so hesitant to do coming into Lee was now the only thing that I wanted to do. All I wanted to do was spread the gospel through music and use music as a vehicle to bring people closer to him. And so as I've found satisfaction in that, I decided to pursue that in master's program. So I decided to do church music as a master's degree with an emphasis in conducting. And so my desire now is to direct choirs that spread the gospel through music for the rest of my life, whether that's in a collegiate setting or in a church setting. I just want to serve the Lord with my talents. So that's why I applied to Baylor. In Baylor, I'm doing that degree that I mentioned, church music with a conducting emphasis, and hopefully we'll see what happens from there. So
wow,
yeah.
That's great. Do you have any highlights from your time in Lee Singers? Do you feel like God used that to confirm the calling?
Oh, definitely. Just through so many different times. I remember going to Indonesia the summer of my sophomore year, and getting to lead. It was about 80,000 people from all over Asia, some of which had to sneak out of their countries in order to come to this conference. These people, we got to lead them in worship, and we got to see just the passion that they had for Christ. It was incredible to see just how willing they were to be uncomfortable in order for the sake of praising God and worshiping Him, and getting to know Him better. So seeing that, we as as a choir, we're all from America, a very privileged place, but seeing their attitudes inspired us to not take the privileges that we have to worship freely for granted. So that experience made me want to continue doing that and continue bringing the gospel to people who really don't get that opportunity very often to see Christ lifted up through musical worship. And not only that, but also just the impact that our director, Dr. Moffat, was able to have on us as individuals, the way he discipled us and pushed us to be more like Christ. It's inspired me to want to do that with students as well. So I want to have influence on students and help them develop their gifts and their talents in order to glorify God. So my desire for ministry is two-sided. I want to spread the gospel and go God to all the world through music, but I also want to disciple students here, and I want to train them up in their talents. So my experience at Lee has totally redefined what I view as my calling, and shaped it, for sure.
When we first got ready for the Japan trip, I'm just going to be honest here, I felt like a lot of times I would have to say, Alex, step it up, grab something, help, the ladies are carrying stuff, jump in, get involved. And now, you just won one of the top awards at this school, at Lee University, because you've been so involved. It's like night and day. Yeah. How did that happen? You're ready to put your hands to the plow and do the work.
Yeah. A lot of it has to do with my experience in singers and in Japan, because, especially going into the Japan trip, because I didn't have really a strong sense of my calling. I wasn't very passionate about going to begin with, and so I was just kind of confused as to why I was going and all these things. But the Lord had a plan, and it led me on a journey to change and to grow as an individual. Just joining singers, I learned. One of the main things I learned was excellence in everything that we did, whether that was music or whether the way that we behaved on and off the risers. That led me to gain a lot of responsibility and to learn to take the initiative a lot more. And so it's really helped grow me in my leadership, especially. So,
What are some of the things that you've found really fulfilling to be involved in at Lee?
At Lee. I've been involved in a lot of different areas. So one of the most influential things during my time at Lee was my time in residential life. I was a chaplain in Battle of O'Bannon for 2 years, and that was really where I started to open my eyes as to the fact that ministry is not just the work of the few or of some. Ministry is the work of everyone. If you're a Christian, then you're called to serve and to work for the kingdom of God. So just being in the dorm and doing life with all of those guys on a daily basis and seeing that we're all broken, and that we all need restoration in our relationship with Christ. So and seeing that God was able to use my experience, whatever experience I had, in order to help and impact the lives of those guys, that really changed me, for sure. And again, it grew me in my leadership because it stretched me. Another thing I was involved in Greek life here on campus. This past semester I was president of Tau Kappa Omega, and just seeing the way that the individuals in that club served just blew me away. Every week they would go and hand out food to the Blythe Bower area here in Cleveland. They would put on a worship night for the entire campus. They would and did a mentorship program for elementary school students here in the area. And there were the men and women in that club were just so passionate about the Lord, and it inspired me. So just through singers, through Japan, through Res Life, through Greek life, I've just been stretched so much, and I've learned so much about myself and about leadership and about our role as disciples of Jesus Christ. So I'm so thankful.
Great. What do you think you'll experience in graduate school? Do you have a feeling for why God is drawing you to Baylor?
Honestly, I have no clue. I just know that God has opened the right doors. So, for instance, Baylor has the exact degree that I'm looking for, because it's a mixture of church music and ministry along with conducting and directing choirs, which is just my two passions just conglomerated. So I am looking forward to being able to get that experience and I got a full tuition scholarship to go to Baylor. So that was really one of the defining factors for sure. I was between that and accepting a job here in Cleveland. I was, actually in Ottawa. I got offered a job to teach middle school in Ottawa, but I ended up going the graduate school route because I knew I wanted to get my master's anyway. So the right doors opened, and I was like, all right, God, this is going to be difficult. I'm going to, be 14 hours away from anyone I know, but I think that this is where you're leading me. Especially, once I prayed about it, I felt peace and confirmation that that was what I needed to do. So,
if there's an open door, that's got to be it right there, right? Full tuition, really good program, exactly the combination of things that you want to work on.
Exactly.
And a great school. That's so good. Well, God bless you in all this. This has really been good to hear your story, and all the best.
Thank you so much.